The message arrived simultaneously across 7,000 star systems, burning through every communication channel, every diplomatic frequency, every military network in the known galaxy. 3 words in perfect galactic standard, followed by coordinates and a timestamp. We're coming. Wait. In the halls of the Zenthari Imperium, where emperors had ruled for 10,000 years without challenge, the message triggered something that hadn't been felt in millennia: fear. In the crystalline spires of the Vex Collective, where 1 billion minds thought as one, confusion rippled through their neural networks like a stone thrown into still water. And in the warfleets of the Krell Dominion, ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds suddenly found their weapons officers checking and rechecking their targeting systems, because nobody sent warnings in the galaxy anymore. Nobody announced their arrival. You either struck without mercy, or you negotiated from a position of weakness. Those were the only 2 languages the Galactic Council understood. But humanity had just introduced a 3rd option, and that terrified them more than any fleet. Commander Thexelar of the Zenthari Imperial Guard had served for 60 cycles, seen combat on 17 worlds, and witnessed the fall of 3 civilizations. His scaled hand trembled just slightly as he played the message for the Council of Warlords for the 7th time. Analysis? High Warlord Krevthos demanded, his 4 eyes narrowing as he leaned forward on his throne of conquered metals. Impossible to trace, my lord, Thexelar reported, trying to keep his voice steady. The signal originated from everywhere and nowhere. It bypassed every encryption we possess. It shouldn't exist, but it's there, burned into every receiver in our territory. 3 words, another council member hissed. 3 words that violated our most secure networks, and you're telling me you know nothing about who sent them. We know who sent them, Lord Vexner. Thexelar brought up a holographic display. The signature encoding matches the linguistic patterns of species 7749, the ones the Krell scouting parties encountered in Sector 89. A murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone had heard the stories. Fey Krell patrol fleet had found a small colony world on the edge of explored space. Barely defended, technologically primitive by galactic standards. They'd followed standard procedure, sent a subjugation ultimatum, waited the customary 3 solar cycles for surrender. The humans had responded by destroying 17 Krell warships. Not defeated. Not damaged, destroyed, with weapons that shouldn't have worked, using tactics that violated every accepted principle of space combat. And when the Krell sent a larger fleet, the humans vanished, every last one of them, leaving nothing but empty cities and a single message broadcast on repeat. You shouldn't have come here. That was 8 months ago. Since then, the galaxy had been quiet, too quiet. The Krell, despite their pride, despite their rage, hadn't sent a 3rd fleet. When pressed by the Council, they'd simply stated that the matter was under review. In galactic politics, that meant they were afraid, and now this. A message sent to every major power simultaneously. Not a plea for peace, not a declaration of war. Just a simple statement of intent. We're coming. What do they want? High Warlord Krevthos demanded. Territory? Resources? Technological exchange? Thexelar hesitated. My lord, our xenopsychology team has studied what little data we have on human behavior. Their assessment is troubling. Speak plainly, Commander. They believe humans don't want anything from us, my lord. They think the humans are coming because we attacked them first. They're coming because in their cultural framework, we started something that they intend to finish. The chamber fell silent. You're saying they're coming for revenge? Lord Vexnar's voice dripped with disbelief. For 1 colony? 1 minor skirmish with the Krell? That's absurd. In the natural order of galactic civilization, the weak are consumed. It's not personal, it's simply the way things are. With respect, my lord, Thexelar said carefully, humans may not see it that way. What would you do if a civilization you'd never met, never provoked, showed up at your door and demanded your surrender? Would you comply? Would you fight? Or would you do something the galaxy had never seen before? 7,000 light-years away, aboard the UNSS Indomitable, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the same message her civilization had just broadcast to the stars. The bridge was quiet, officers working with the calm efficiency of professionals who knew that everything was about to change. All task force commanders are reporting ready status, Admiral, her XO reported. 173 ships holding formation. Weapons at standby. Quantum drives spun up and awaiting your command. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the vast emptiness between humanity's territory and the Krell Dominion. 8 months. 8 months since the Krell had shown up at New Vancouver and killed 17,000 colonists before humanity could respond. 8 months of building, planning, and preparing. 8 months of rage turned cold and sharp. Comms, has there been any response to our message? Negative, Admiral. Though we're detecting significant upticks in encrypted traffic across all major powers. They're talking about us. Good. Sarah allowed herself a thin smile. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them be afraid. Her XO, Commander James Park, stepped closer and lowered his voice. Admiral, some of the younger officers are asking, why did we send the warning? Why give them time to prepare? We could have struck while they were still reeling from the last engagement. Sarah turned to face him fully. Because that's what they would do, Commander. Strike without warning, without mercy, without even the courtesy of an explanation. We wanted them to know we're different. Different how, ma'am? Different because we keep our promises. Her voice hardened. We told them what would happen if they attacked our people. They didn't listen. Now we're keeping our word. We're coming. They can prepare, they can negotiate, they can run. It doesn't matter. We will arrive. We will be seen. And they will understand that humanity doesn't start fights, but we finish them. Park completed the statement. Humanity's unofficial motto for this war. Sarah returned her attention to the display. Navigation, what's our ETA to Krell space? 17 hours, Admiral. Though I should mention, the route takes us directly through Zenthari-controlled systems. They're unlikely to be pleased about that. The Zenthari sat on the Galactic Council and voted to classify humanity as a pre-spacefaring civilization, Sarah said coldly. They voted to deny our petition for protected status. They abstained when the Krell announced their intent to colonize our border worlds. As far as I'm concerned, they enabled what happened. If they want to lodge a complaint about our flight path, they're welcome to try. She pulled up a separate display. This one showing casualty reports from New Vancouver. Names, faces, 17,000 individuals, each with their own stories, their own dreams. Gone in a matter of hours because the galaxy saw humanity as just another resource to be exploited. Send a fleet-wide message, she ordered. All ships are to proceed at best speed. Weapons remain in standby mode unless fired upon. Any ship that attacks us will be destroyed. Any ship that stands aside will not be harmed. We're not here to conquer the galaxy. We're here to make a point. And what point is that, Admiral? Park asked quietly. Sarah's jaw tightened. That there are consequences for what they did. That the age of galactic powers doing whatever they want to, whoever they want, is over. That humanity refuses to be silent, to be victims, to disappear quietly into the night. The bridge fell silent as her words hung in the air. Helm. Engage quantum drives. All ships follow flag formation. Here's time we introduced ourselves to the galaxy properly. The 173 ships of humanity's first fleet shimmered and vanished, entering the quantum slipstream that would carry them deep into the heart of civilized space. Behind them, humanity's remaining forces stood ready to defend their worlds. Ahead of them, 7,000 civilizations held their collective breath. The silence was finally broken. The Zenthari. Picket fleet stationed at Border Post Zeta 7 detected the quantum wake signatures 42 minutes before humanity's fleet emerged into normal space. Fleet Captain Dalrek immediately ordered his ships to battle stations, though his mandibles clicked nervously as he studied the sensor data. How many ships? He demanded. At least 150, Captain. Possibly more. The quantum signatures are unusual. Our sensors are having difficulty achieving a precise count. Dalrek's career had been defined by caution, which is precisely why he'd survived long enough to earn a command posting. He'd faced the Vex in battle, skirmished with Krell raiders, and once even witnessed a Dravashi world ship pass through his sector. He knew when he was outmatched. Transmission incoming, Captain. Audio and visual. Put it through. The view screen flickered and a human female in a dark blue uniform appeared. Her face was strange. Only 2 eyes, no natural armor, vulnerable-looking, but there was something in her gaze that made Dalrek's scales itch. He'd seen that look before, in the eyes of apex predators from a dozen worlds. Zenthari vessel, This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Service. We are passing through this system en route to Krell space. We have no hostile intent toward the Zenthari Imperium. Stand aside and you will not be harmed. Dalrek processed the translated words carefully. No threats, no demands. Just a simple statement of fact. But the implications... Human Commander, you are in violation of Zenthari territorial space. By order of the Imperium, you must power down your weapons and submit to boarding for inspection. The human's expression didn't change. Captain, we both know you don't have enough ships to enforce that order. You have 30 seconds to move your fleet out of our flight path. If you choose to fire on us, we will defend ourselves. If you choose to let us pass, no harm will come to you or your ships. The choice is yours. Dalrek looked at his tactical display. His 7 ships against over 150 of unknown capability. The math was clear, but so was the political reality. Allowing an unknown fleet to transit Zenthari space unchallenged would be seen as weakness. 20 seconds. Captain, the human said calmly. Dalrek's tactical officer leaned in. Sir, we could launch a spread of warning shots, establish our claim to the territory without initiating full combat. And if they interpret warning shots as an attack, then we follow protocol and fight. Dalrek thought of his crew, 300 souls across 7 ships. He thought of his mate and offspring waiting for him on the homeworld. He thought about whether dying to maintain political theater was worth the cost. 10 seconds, he made his decision. All ships move to coordinates Delta 79er. Establish a holding pattern at 10,000 kilometers from the human fleet's projected path. Weapons remain locked, but do not achieve firing solutions. We will observe and report. Captain, his tactical officer protested. The High Command is not here, Dalrek cut him off sharply. I am, and I will not waste the lives of my crew on a gesture. Move the fleet now. On the view screen, the human admiral nodded slowly. A wise decision, Captain. For what it's worth, I respect your judgment. We will be through your space in approximately 4 hours. When we're gone, I'd recommend you report exactly what you saw here today. And what did I see, Admiral? The human's expression finally shifted. Not quite a smile, but something close. You saw humanity keep its word. We told the galaxy we were coming. Here we are. The screen went dark. Dalrek watched as the human fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, ship after ship materializing in a display of coordination that spoke to serious training and discipline. The vessels themselves were strange, angles and geometries that didn't conform to standard design principles, materials that caused strange readings on his sensors, but it was the weapons that held his attention. Energy signatures that didn't match any known classification, launch systems that seemed to violate several accepted principles of physics, and power cores that radiated more energy than some of his ships, displaced in total mass. Get this data to Imperial Intelligence immediately, he ordered. Priority Alpha transmission, and add my personal assessment. Whatever the Krell did to provoke these humans, we need to stay out of it. That's not our place to recommend policy, Captain. No, Dalrek agreed, watching the human fleet slice through Zenthari space with the inevitability of a meteor fall. But I'd rather be reprimanded for overstepping than be responsible for starting a war we can't win. The human fleet passed through the system without firing a single shot, but every ship in Dalrek's command felt the weight of their passage. This wasn't a raiding party or an exploration fleet. This was something the galaxy hadn't seen in living memory. This was judgment coming to collect a debt. News of the human. Fleet's passage through Zenthari space spread through the galaxy, at the speed of quantum communication. In the Vex Collective's neural nexus, 1 trillion synapses fired in panicked calculation. The Dravashi Concordat immediately declared strict neutrality and sealed their borders. 3 minor civilizations on the path between Zenthari and Krell space evacuated their border stations entirely, and in the Great Hall of the Krell Dominion, Supreme Commander Rakthar listened to the reports with growing rage. They dare, he snarled, his massive frame rising from his command throne. They dare to cross half the galaxy and threaten the Dominion. His intelligence chief, a smaller but no less dangerous Krell named Vextier, gestured to the holographic display. Supreme Commander, the humans have broadcast their route openly. They will arrive in our territory in approximately 9 standard hours. Their fleet composition suggests I don't care what their fleet composition suggests, Rakthar roared. They are insects. We crushed their pathetic colony world, and instead of acknowledging their place in the natural order, they have the audacity to retaliate. Sir, perhaps we should consider negotiation. If we offer reparations, Rakthar's clawed hand slammed into the display console, shattering it. Reparations? For inferior beings? Never. We are the Krell. We have conquered the Zenthari in open warfare, broken the Vex blockades, and subjugated 24 species. These humans think their single victory against a small patrol fleet makes them our equals. Supreme Commander, another officer interjected carefully. The Zenthari captain's report indicates unusual weapons technology, advanced quantum drives, energy signatures we cannot classify. Perhaps caution? Enough. Rakthar silenced the room with a gesture. Mobilize the 5th War Fleet, all 300 ships. I want them positioned at the border of our space, ready to intercept. When these humans arrive, we will show them what happens to species who forget their place. And if they have allies? Vexter asked quietly. The Zenthari are cowards. They let the humans pass rather than fight. So what will stand with these newcomers against the might of the Krell Dominion? Rakthar moved to the great viewing wall that showed the expanse of Krell-controlled space. Hundreds of worlds, trillions of subjects, power that had been built over thousands of years. Send a message to the human fleet, he ordered. Tell them they have one chance to turn back. If they enter Krell space, they will be destroyed. No mercy, no prisoners, total annihilation. The message was transmitted within minutes. The response came back even faster. Message received. We're still coming. What would you do if you'd built an empire on strength, on the principle that might makes right, and suddenly someone refused to acknowledge your power? Would you back down? Would you seek to understand? Or would you do what the Krell had always done, meet force with overwhelming force? Aboard the Indomitable, Sarah Chen read the Krell ultimatum, with the same expression she might reserve for reading a grocery list. She'd expected this. In fact, she'd counted on it. 300 ships, Commander Park observed. That's nearly twice our numbers. And they think that matters. Sarah pulled up the tactical projections her team had been refining for months. The Krell fight the way everyone in the galaxy fights. Massed formations, energy weapons optimized for shield penetration, and boarding actions for disabled vessels. It's worked for them for centuries because everyone plays by the same rules. We're not going to play by their rules. No, we're not. Sarah expanded the display to show the entire sector. Our quantum drives give us a mobility advantage they can't match. Our weapons, she highlighted several of the fleet's newest additions, were designed specifically to counter the shield technology the Krell use, and our tactical doctrine is built on principles they've never encountered. She turned to address the bridge crew as a whole. I want everyone to understand what we're about to do. In 9 hours, we're going to engage a force twice our size in their own territory. We're going to be facing the military might of a civilization that has dominated this region of space for 1,000 years, and we're going to win. Not because we're stronger, but because we fight differently. A young ensign at the communication station raised her hand tentatively. Admiral, permission to ask a question? Granted. Ma'am, why are we really doing this? I understand New Vancouver was a tragedy, but wouldn't negotiation be cheaper, safer, more diplomatic? Sarah finished for her. Yes, Ensign, it would be all those things. But here's what you need to understand about the galaxy we've just entered. Every civilization out here, from the Zenthari to the Krell to the Vex, operates on one fundamental principle. Power determines rights. The strong do what they will, the weak suffer what they must. It's been that way for millennia. She paused, making sure every eye on the bridge was on her. If we negotiate, if we accept reparations, if we back down now, we establish humanity's place in that order. We become just another species that can be pushed around, exploited, and eventually conquered. But if we do this, if we cross half the galaxy to hold the Krell accountable for what they did, we establish something else entirely. What's that, Admiral? The ensign asked. That humanity doesn't accept that order. That we write our own rules. That attacking our people isn't a calculated risk with manageable consequences. It's a fundamental mistake that will haunt you across light years and years. We're not fighting this battle for revenge, Ensign. We're fighting it to ensure we never have to fight it again. The bridge was silent for a moment as her words sank in. "All crew battle stations," Sarah ordered. "Weapons-free authorization granted at my command only. Fleet-wide communication, all ships." The comm officer nodded. "You're live, Admiral." "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. In 9 hours we will arrive at the border of Krell space. We will be met by a superior force that expects us to behave like every other civilization they've encountered, to line up our ships and trade fire until one side breaks. They expect us to fight their way by their rules in a battle they've already calculated they'll win." She paused, letting tension build. "So we're going to disappoint them. When we arrive, every ship will execute combat pattern Delta on my mark. Navigation will receive jump coordinates in real time. Weapons will fire on designated targets only, no deviation from the firing solution. And we will move through their fleet like water through broken glass, because we're not here to fight a traditional battle." "What are we here to do, Admiral?" Commander Park asked, playing his part in the performance. Sarah smiled, and it wasn't a kind expression. "We're here to teach the galaxy a new lesson, that humans don't fight fair. We fight to win." The Krell Fifth War Fleet waited in perfect formation at the border of their territory, 300 warships arranged in the traditional battlesphere, a formation designed to provide overlapping fields of fire while protecting the flagship at the center. Supreme Commander Rakthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable Victory, and watched the sensors for the humans' arrival. "Sir, quantum wake signatures detected. Multiple contacts emerging from slipstream in Sector 7. Finally," Rakthar growled. "All ships power up weapons. Target the largest vessels first. I want overwhelming firepower on their flagship. Kill their command structure, and the rest will scatter." But as the human fleet materialized, something was wrong. Instead of forming up in a defensive or offensive line, the human ships emerged scattered across a three-dimensional space, thousands of kilometers wide. No central formation, no obvious flagship, just vessels appearing seemingly at random. "What are they doing?" Rakthar demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their formation makes no tactical sense. They're spread too thin to concentrate fire." The human ships opened fire, but not at the Krell fleet. Dozens of strange missiles launched simultaneously, burning towards seemingly empty space between the two forces. Then they detonated, each one releasing a cloud of something that the Krell sensors couldn't identify. "Chaff?" an officer suggested. "Some kind of sensor interference?" "Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. All ships advance. Move through their disruption field and engage at close range." The Krell fleet surged forward in perfect unison, 300 warships moving as one massive unit. It was intimidating, impressive, the kind of display that had caused dozens of civilizations to surrender rather than face battle. The human ships vanished, not destroyed, not retreating. They simply activated their quantum drives and disappeared, leaving the Krell fleet charging through empty space. "Where did they—" Rakthar began, but his tactical officer was already shouting. "Behind us! They've quantum jumped behind our formation." The Krell fleet began to turn, a ponderous maneuver for such a large formation. But before they could complete the rotation, the human ships attacked, not with conventional weapons, but with something the Krell had never encountered. Kinetic impactors, not energy weapons that could be absorbed by shields, not missiles that could be shot down, just dense slugs of metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, carrying enough kinetic energy to punch through shields, armor, and hull like they weren't there. 7 Krell ships exploded in the first volley. Then the human fleet vanished again, quantum jumping to a new position before the Krell could return fire. "This is impossible," Rakthar roared. "Quantum drives can't be used in combat. The power requirements, the targeting calculations." The humans appeared again, this time above the Krell formation. Another volley of kinetic impactors, 11 more ships destroyed. "They're not fighting," Vextier said quietly, his voice filled with a terrible understanding. "They're hunting." The battle, if it could even be called that, continued for 17 minutes. The humans would appear, fire with devastating accuracy, and vanish before the Krell could respond. They never stayed in one place long enough to be targeted, never followed a predictable pattern, never gave the Krell fleet a chance to bring their superior numbers to bear. And all the while, those mysterious clouds they'd deployed at the start continued to expand, interfering with Krell sensors, making it impossible to predict where the humans would appear next. When Supreme Commander Rakthar finally gave the order to retreat, He'd lost 84 ships. The humans hadn't lost a single vessel. The footage of the battle, transmitted by automated Krell sensors before they were destroyed, spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. In the Zenthari court, Emperor Valkros watched the recording 3 times in succession, his expression unreadable. In the Vex Collective, algorithmic warfare programs ran the engagement through 1 million simulations, searching for a counter-strategy that didn't exist, and on thousands of worlds, species that had lived under the threat of Krell domination watched as the seemingly invincible war fleet was dismantled by a force half its size using tactics that shouldn't have worked. But they had worked, and that changed everything. Aboard the Indomitable, Sarah Chen stood before a holographic communication array, her image being broadcast to every major power in the galaxy. She'd cleaned up, changed into her dress uniform, and now she was about to deliver the message that would define humanity's place in the galactic community. To the members of the Galactic Council, and to all civilizations within range of this transmission, I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Service. 8 months ago, the Krell Dominion attacked a human colony world without provocation, without warning and without mercy. 17,000 civilians were killed in what the Krell considered a minor action in their ongoing expansion. She paused, letting that number hang in the air. We sent them a message. We told them we were coming. Not because we needed to. We could have struck without warning the way they did. But because humanity believes in something this galaxy seems to have forgotten: accountability. The principle that actions have consequences. That strength doesn't give you the right to prey on those you consider weak. On a dozen worlds, in 100 languages, beings listened. Today, we engaged the Krell Fifth War Fleet. They outnumbered us 2-1. They had home territory advantage. They had 1,000 years of military tradition. And they lost. Not because we're stronger, but because we refused to fight on their terms. Sarah's expression hardened. Let me be absolutely clear about what happens next. Humanity is not seeking to conquer the galaxy. We are not interested in your resources, your territory, or your submission. We want one thing: to be left alone, to develop in peace, to exist without the threat of civilizations who think they can take what they want from us simply because they're older, larger, or more established. She leaned forward, and every being watching felt the weight of her gaze. But if you attack us, if you harm our people, if you make the same mistake the Krell made, we will do exactly what we did today. We will cross any distance, overcome any obstacle, and hold you accountable. And we will do it in ways you can't predict, using tactics you don't understand, because that's what humans do. We adapt, we innovate, we refuse to lose. Sarah straightened. The Galactic Council has a choice to make. You can continue operating the way you always have, where might makes right and the strong prey on the weak. But if you choose that path, understand that humanity will not be a victim in that system. We will be the consequence. She let the silence stretch for a moment. Or you can choose something different. You can establish rules that protect all species, regardless of their military strength. You can build a galaxy where advancement comes from cooperation rather than conquest. You can create a community of civilizations rather than a hierarchy of predators. The choice is yours. But know this: humanity has spoken. We are no longer silent. We are no longer passive. We are here, we are capable, and we will not be ignored. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, across 7,000 civilizations, the same question echoed through council chambers, war rooms, and public forums. What do we do now? 3 months later, the Galactic Council convened for the first time since the Battle of Krell Border, as historians were already calling it. For the first time in recorded history, every single member civilization attended. And for the first time ever, a new species was invited to address the full assembly. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the speaker's podium, looking out at representatives from civilizations that spanned thousands of worlds, trillions of beings, and millennia of history. She thought about the 17,000 souls of New Vancouver. She thought about every human colony that had looked at the stars and wondered what waited out there. She thought about the young ensign on her bridge who'd asked why they were really fighting. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, "I stand before you not as a conqueror, not as a supplicant, but as a representative of humanity, a species that refuses to accept that violence and domination. are the natural order of civilized space. She pulled up a holographic display showing the proposed treaty her team had spent months crafting. Humanity proposes a new framework for galactic civilization, one based on 3 principles. First, that all species have the right to develop without interference or predation. Second, that disputes between civilizations must be resolved through dialogue, not force. And third, that any civilization that violates these principles will face collective action from all member states. The murmuring began immediately. The Zenthari representative stood. And if we refuse, if we choose not to bind ourselves to human ideals? Sarah's expression didn't change. Then you continue as you have. But understand that humanity will not be alone in standing against aggression. In the 3 months since our engagement with the Krell, 47 minor civilizations have approached us seeking defensive alliances. They're tired of being prey. They're ready for something different. She gestured to the display, where the proposed alliance members were highlighted. You can choose to be part of a new galactic community, or you can continue the old patterns and find yourselves increasingly isolated. The Age of Empires built on conquest is ending, not because humanity is forcing it to end, but because we've shown that there's an alternative. The Vex Collective's representative spoke next, its translated voice flat and analytical. You destroyed a Krell fleet using tactics we cannot counter. You possess technology we do not understand. Why should we trust that you won't use that advantage to dominate us? Because we already had that advantage, Sarah replied simply, and we didn't use it to conquer. We used it to defend. We used it to prove a point. Power isn't about domination, it's about what you choose to do with it. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or sensory organs of representatives from across the galaxy. Humanity learned a hard lesson in our own history. We fought wars, built empires, and nearly destroyed ourselves in the process. We learned that real strength doesn't come from subjugating others. It comes from cooperation, from building systems that protect everyone, from refusing to accept that cruelty is somehow natural or inevitable. Sarah's voice softened slightly, becoming less formal. We didn't ask to be part of this galactic community. We were thrust into it when the Krell decided we'd make easy prey. But now that we're here, we're offering you something you haven't had before. A choice. Choose to continue the old ways, and we'll defend ourselves and our allies. Choose to build something better, and we'll help. The vote took 3 days. When it was complete, the Galactic Mutual Defense and Development Pact had been ratified by 83 civilizations, including, surprisingly, the Zenthari Imperium. The Krell Dominion abstained, but agreed to abide by the terms. The Vex Collective requested a 30-day analysis period before committing, but the real victory wasn't in the numbers. It was in what the treaty represented, proof that the galaxy could change, that patterns that had existed for millennia weren't immutable laws of nature, that sometimes all it took was one species willing to say no to shift the entire balance. 1 year after the message that shook the galaxy, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's first diplomatic station, looking out at the steady stream of ships arriving from across known space. Trade vessels, cultural exchanges, scientific missions. The galaxy was learning to cooperate, slowly and imperfectly, but with genuine progress. Commander Park joined her at the viewport. The Krell ambassador just arrived. He's requested a private meeting. Let me guess, he wants to discuss military technology exchange. Actually, no. He wants to discuss their War Orphans program. Apparently, they're having trouble adapting it to peacetime, and they've heard about Earth's adoption networks. Sarah turned to look at him, surprised. The Krell want our help with social services? Turns out that when you stop spending 80% of your resources on military expansion, you have to figure out what to do with the other 80%. Park smiled. We're watching an empire learn to be a civilization. Sarah returned her gaze to the viewport, watching as a Zenthari merchant vessel docked alongside a Vex research craft. The 2 ships that would have been enemies a year ago now sharing a station in peace. You know, she said quietly, I've been thinking about that question the ensign asked on the bridge. Why we were really doing this, and I think I got it wrong. I told her we were fighting to establish our place, to ensure we'd never have to fight again. But that wasn't it. We were fighting to give the galaxy permission. Permission for what? Permission to change. Every civilization out there was locked in patterns they thought were inevitable. The strong conquered the weak because that's what the strong had always done. Nobody questioned it because nobody thought there was an alternative. She gestured to the ships outside. We showed them there was, not by being the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but by being willing to fight for something different, by refusing to accept that cruelty was natural, by sending one message that said, "We're coming," and then following through on every promise we made. Park nodded slowly. So what happens now? Do we just integrate? Become another voice in the council? No, Sarah said firmly. We stay vigilant. We keep our fleets ready. We maintain the capability to do exactly what we did at the Krell border. Because the moment we forget how we got here, the moment we decide that we can let our guard down, someone will test us again. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also necessary. We're not special because we're human. We're special because we're willing to do what needs to be done. And that's a responsibility we can't afford to forget. She turned away from the viewport, her expression shifting from contemplation to determination. Come on, Commander. We've got a Krell ambassador to meet, treaties to negotiate, and an entire galaxy to help rebuild. The silence is broken, but the real work is just beginning. In the archives of the Galactic Council, historians would debate for centuries about the Comment High for the next part.